Politics is quite a game, isn't it? There are no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, only permanent interests. And this quote became evident in the Republican National Convention when Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis formally endorsed Donald Trump's candidature for the presidential election following their intense fight for the nomination earlier this year. And both threw their weight and support behind Donald Trump.
I'll start by making one thing perfectly clear. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period.
My fellow Republicans, let's send Joe Biden back to his basement and let's send Donald Trump back to the White House.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, two of former President Donald Trump's fiercest competitors and rivals during the GOP primaries, who regularly told Americans that he shouldn't get a second term, offered their strong endorsement and approval to Trump's candidature. The two extended their support to Trump in a display of rare unity just 3 days after Trump survived an assassination attempt. Nikki Haley, in fact, who had described the former US president as unelectable and unfit for office during her campaign, urged her supporters to vote for him over Democratic President Joe Biden for what she said, quote unquote, for the sake of our nation.
You don't have to agree with Trump 100% of the time to vote for him. Take it from me, I haven't always agreed with President Trump. But we agree more often than we disagree. We agree on keeping America strong. We agree on keeping America safe.
Now, like Trump's vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, another critic of Trump who had even compared him to Hitler, calling him a moral disaster, Nikki Haley too had described Trump as toxic and lacking moral clarity. And joining her was DeSantis, who repeatedly said that if Trump becomes the GOP nominee again, he would not win against President Joe Biden, and often questioned just how he would win back voters that he lost in 2020. When it came down to Nikki Haley and the former president in the GOP primary, Nikki Haley went even further than DeSantis in her attacks on Trump. In a Wall Street Journal interview in February, Haley said that it would be, quote unquote, like suicide for our country for the GOP to nominate Trump a third time. The attacks between the two were personal, vicious, and quite fierce, with Haley questioning Trump's mental fitness, often calling for him to take a cognitive test, and Trump attacking a husband, questioning his whereabouts. Donald Trump, in fact, had used a rally in South Carolina to attack rival Nikki Haley in her home state, mocking the absence of her husband who was deployed overseas. Nikki Haley fired back at Trump's comments, saying, and I quote, "If you mock the service of a combat veteran, you don't deserve a driver's license, let alone being the President of the United States." In interviews and fundraising messages, Nikki Haley had framed the former president's comments as part of an ongoing pattern of disrespect towards military members and their service, saying that it was evident that Trump would run an undisciplined general election campaign and presidency if elected.
Now, Donald Trump stands in their way and he stands up for America. Donald Trump has been demonized, he's been sued, he's been prosecuted, and he nearly lost his life. We cannot let him down, and we cannot let America down.
Meanwhile, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wasn't also far behind in his disapproval of Trump, delivering some of the sharpest criticism of Trump to date, blaming the former president for his own defeat in 2020. The governor's swipes at the former president had grown even more direct over the course of the campaign. DeSantis had been more frequent and pointed in his criticisms of Trump than any other. He even leveled veiled criticism of the underlying conduct between Trump's alleged affair with a porn star. In an interview to Fox, when Mr. DeSantis was asked to contrast his style with that of Trump's, the Florida governor had then said, and I quote, The way we run the government, I think, is no daily drama, focus on the big picture and put the big points on the board. Well, now the two former contenders seem to have decided to put the past behind, offering full-throttle endorsements of Trump's candidacy at the party's convention in a display of unity after Trump survived the assassination attempt. Interestingly, Nikki Haley, who held out the longest among the other contenders and whose sharp criticism of Trump made her quite a hated figure among the former president's most loyal supporters, was actually a late addition to the convention lineup, and her presence on stage wasn't entirely well received. However, Haley used the moment to speak about immigration and foreign policy, denouncing the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, and stirring fears about the rise in migration at the southern border. She also drew sharp contrast between Mr. Trump and President Biden, calling her former boss someone who she says now, quote-unquote, is clear about who is our friend and who is our enemy.
Of Ohio.
Another former Trump rival and entrepreneur and politician, Vivek Ramaswamy, addressed the convention for the first time, stating, and I quote, that Donald Trump is the president who will unite this country through action and not just words. Ramaswamy also condemned the recent attack on Donald Trump. The convention did mark Trump's first public appearance since the assassination bid on him.
If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump. If you want to reignite the economy in this country, vote Trump. If you want to revive national pride in this country, vote Trump. If you want to make America great again, vote Trump.
And the day ended quite well for Donald Trump, who received quite rapturous applause and a loud ovation as he was officially announced as the Republican presidential candidate. Well, Trump could be seen grinning widely as both his former rivals gave their speeches of endorsement, and he had every reason to do so. After surviving an assassination attempt, receiving the backing of all of his former rivals, Trump's party truly was a picture of unity and solidarity.